Good afternoon, and welcome to the program, The Mailbox, one of its kind that has lasted for the last 10 years without a break. Indeed, it is Wednesday, October 12th, year 2022, and today we have a show lined up for you. This is The Mailbox. I'm Courtney Morrison, and we just want to say continued thanks to our sponsors. Fosrich Company Limited, your electrical, lighting, and solar people. They are there for us at all times and continue to be our good list sponsors. We greatly appreciate them. Hi, Kev, how you do?
I am doing fine, Courtney. How are you doing?
I'm very well, very well, very well. Thank you. It
Great,
is
great,
indeed
great.
a good evening, and
Of course, of course. Let me just say hail up to the man them from Moran Point to Nick Grill. This is your program, The Mailbox, and we're focusing on some important topics. It's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and that's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And today we're going to be focusing on the he logical man, that's the HE, and his emotions, the domestic violence prevention episode. We have some very special guests, and let me introduce one of them, Nashan Miller, policy analyst in the Policy and Research Department of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, and he is in charge with the responsibility of coordinating special service desk for men. So, did you know that we have a special desk, man on man? We have a special desk in the Department of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, and so you can ask all the questions of Nashan Miller. Courtney, who else we have on today's show?
we have with us, as guess who we have had with us before. He's a wonderful gentleman all the way from Mandeville. His name is Michael Coombs. He's a doctor in the area of public health. He's a public health specialist and founder, chair, National Association for the Family. I also know of him running a program called Man Up, which tends to help our young men to grow up into the leaders they ought to be. And so today's program promises to be one that is educational, one that is informative, and one that will transform, uplift, and encourage. So we want you to stay tuned as we have Dr. Michael Coombs and Mr. Nashon Miller here with us today to share with us on this National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Indeed, the he logical man and is he motions.
It'll be very interesting, Courtney. We're created as men to be lovers and to be the example that God has created us to be, and to be the example for healthy relationships and with all our feelings, etc. So, listeners, we want you to watch the program live on social media, Facebook and YouTube at Love 101 FM Jamaica. And man and man, we ask you to give us a call. Please give us a call. It's your program. You can get us at 876-968-8327. That's 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. Ladies, we thank you so much for your participation. You may comment via Facebook, YouTube, or via our WhatsApp line. That's 876-997-3125. Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting time. And as usual, at this time, we give a shout out to all of the man them, those listening. Ladies, go get those men of yours, those who are men. Please call up your friends. You know, it's that hour where we take time up to continue to say, man and man, we're there, good man there. You know, I saw a joke recently. You know, I have to be careful. On a social media page, it says, good men are still out there. It's just your eyelashes that's preventing you from seeing them. So, you know, some of the eyelashes that we see these days, boy, I don't know. How let me leave that one alone. But we want to give a shout out to the man among them. Indeed. I saw that one and I couldn't stop laughing. It was actually posted by a woman. So
Okay.
it was really amazing.
Well,
We
I'm
want to give
hoping
a
that
shout out, and Kevin, after three, let's do the shout out.
sure.
One, two, three. Monday!
Yes. So eyelashes or no eyelashes, man, very, very present. And we continue to challenge, encourage, and empower our men to become all that they were created to become. Want to big up the man, them in a Cedar Valley, St. Thomas. Found out that they have gotten connectivity, Wi-Fi. Can you imagine? Because provided by the government through the Universal Fund, that was a good thing for the people in Cedar Valley there in St. Thomas. Big up to my uncle Enos and the man them in other place. So that is what's happening, and we're very happy, Courtney, that we can have men such as Dr. Michael Coombs and Nashon Miller, who are here in a positive way, challenging, encouraging, and empowering our men. This is the program for it, the mailbox, for the last 10 years, and we continue to do that. We really appreciate the man there.
Yeah, we thank everyone for their support, for continually keeping us here. And we believe it is those who are our listeners and those who are live on YouTube and Facebook. Can you imagine? Mailbox got an upgrade due to COVID. You can now see
Yes,
our faces, and that I think is good.
yes.
It looks so nice, but don't worry yourself. I soon see. So we want to enter a section which we call the draft, the direct response for the featured theme, and the guests are those who will be asking a few questions about themselves. And again, we thank our sponsors, Fosterich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people. Mr. Foster, you're doing a great job, CEO, great man. Thank you for being with us on the show a couple of weeks ago. And so, indeed, he was our man of integrity, Kevin.
Ah, um, very, very serious, focused individual, and company has been doing pretty well. And I must be honest, I am a shareholder and benefiting from the extraordinary work that they have been doing, Courtney. So I have to put it out there, but really love the expansion mode and creating employment for persons here in Jamaica as well. Thank you so much, Fosterich Company. So today we want to remind you of what we'll be focusing on: the illogical man. Is he logical or is he illogical? And his emotions. Is it okay for the man them to show different emotions? Is it okay for them to be sad and happy and cry and to be anxious and fearful and brave and courageous? But we want to look at the domestic violence prevention episode, with guest Dr. Michael Coombs, who is a public health specialist and the founder, chair of the National Association for the Family. So he's going to be one of our guests.
And our other guest is Mr. Nashon Miller. He's a policy analyst in the Policy and Research Department at the Bureau of Gender Affairs and is charged with the responsibility of coordinating the Special Service Desk for Men. He's also a Kingston College Old Boys student. And so we thank Nashon for joining us and Dr. Coombs for joining us as we indeed speak to domestic violence prevention. Nashon, I'm sure. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to the program.
Afternoon, Courtney and Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Good afternoon, Courtney. Good afternoon, Kevin. Thanks for having me indeed.
Bless you. Nashon, we want to start with you, Mr. Miller. We just want to get to know you a bit. What does your role and function at the Bureau entails? What is a special service desk for men? And what makes it so special for men? And that is my question for everybody else because I do some work with you.
Yes. So the Special Service Desk for Men is department, a unit within the Bureau of Gender Affairs responsible solely for looking at issues affecting our men and boys, all issues across Jamaican society, whether it's health, crime and violence, issues such as domestic violence, all these issues, right? So it's a safe space where we can talk, just like this program about men issues, anything affecting our men and boys. I know people often say gender issues are synonymous with women issues, but this desk, the male desk formally is here to say, and we debunk that theory that we have a space here for our men and boys, to deal with all everything that's affecting them.
Thank you,
When was this
Nashon.
started, Nation? Sorry. When did you establish this desk?
All right. So the male dex was first established in 2009, but
Mm.
by 2011 it was somewhat disintegrated, and we came back. The minister, or Honorable Minister Olivia Grange, decided that she wanted to have it reestablished. In 2016, when we changed our name from Bureau of Women's Affairs to Bureau of Gender Affairs, she said
Mm.
it was only fitting to have our male desk under a different name, the Special Service Desk for Men, to be re-established.
Nashon, are there any hopes for the male desk to be upgraded? We remember at one stage it was just a women's desk as well, and it got upgraded. Any hopes in the future for that sort of elevation to the men's desk?
Well, funnily, you raised that because we were discussing it earlier today. As you know, the male desk is basically, led by myself, and we want it to become a unit, official unit department, where we have other persons serving in the capacity, because it's outgrowing just myself. There's so much work to do. There's so many things affecting our men and boys across Jamaica, and we think it's fitting at this time that we move on from just a desk to a entire unit, entire department.
Certainly.
Congratulations. We are wait that's good, good, good news. And you can say you heard it here first on Love 101 FM. Yes, from Nashon. Nashon, who are the victims of domestic violence?
Well,
And what is domestic violence?
okay, that's a very good question, because I noticed over the years when we talk about domestic violence, even in this month as we raise awareness on domestic violence, we tend to focus only on one aspect of domestic violence, which is spousal abuse, and we don't account for other types of violence that fall under the umbrella. We're talking about anything that is domesticated, so child abuse, elderly abuse, sibling abuse, along with spousal abuse. But I understand majority of the time it is spousal abuse, and we tend to focus on it, but we have to extend and look at it in its broadest level, so we don't miss out any person that is suffering abuse in the home, in the domestic situation. So our elders, our children, our siblings, and of course spouses, persons in intimate partner relationship.
So that's the voice there of Nation Miller, listeners. We're gonna have Dr. Michael Coombs. Dr. Coombs, great again to have you. What a privilege and honor to have your contribution again. So, are you concerned about domestic violence from where you sit, the different hats that you wear? And is it true that it's not only men um, or women who are victims of domestic violence, but also men? But give us a position, Dr. Coombs, about this challenging situation that we face in Jamaica.
Violence. So you're listening to the program The Mailbox, or you're viewing us live on YouTube or Facebook, but we take a break to the studio. We come right back.
Hello, Jamaica! Phosphorus is having a super lighting sale. Yes, that's right, with LED emergency bulbs from $500. Come get your chandeliers, wall lamps, ceiling fixtures, and so much more. From October 1 to 31, shop and enjoy great deals at Phosphorus in Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Or visit www.phosphorus.com/shop. What are you waiting for? Enjoy massive discounts only at Fosrich. Open Sundays.
I'm Tammy.
I'm Wayne.
And we are the Mitchells. Our life is a busy vibe.
We have our vlogging and music.
Entertainment for the kids.
Them love the online gaming, you see.
And streaming enough shows.
So whether we are at home or on the road,
Flow Yard and Road is made for our vibe.
Power your everywhere vibe with Yard and Road and get up to 150 megabits per second fiber fast internet at home and fully loaded mobile with unlimited social and YouTube data. Anywhere talking text plus gigs and gigs of any use data. All for a special offer of $4,999 plus GCT. Yard and Road is for the way you live. Flow, Jamaica's network. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
Hello, Jamaica! Fosrich is having a super lighting sale. Yes, that's right, with LED emergency bulbs from $500. Come get your chandeliers, wall lamps, ceiling fixtures, and so much more. From October 1 to 31, shop and enjoy great deals at Fosrich in Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Or visit www.fosrich.com/shop. What are you waiting for? Enjoy massive discounts only at Fosrich. Open Sundays.
You love Grace Foods, come dance with me. Whether you are wild or you are pitney, we make everybody happy evidently. Grace in every house, in every con. Grace with the new dick, GK fit. Lead by your mind like a jockey with a whip. Talk to we nice to make your mouth slip. Grace move in the world, everybody knows. 100 lit, 100 years in every basket. 100 years of great friendship. Grace move in the world, everybody knows.
Grace, celebrating 100 years of taste that moves you.
Welcome back to the program, The Mailbox. You're live on Love 101, the family station. Kev, how you do?
Doing well. Love the conversation so far, and great to have Nashan Miller and Dr. Michael Coombs. I know Dr. Coombs was just getting into it. Just want to tell our listeners, this is the Mailbox on Love 101 FM, and want to acknowledge our sponsor, Fosrich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people. And remember, you can call, ask questions about guests. Dr. Coombs, before we went for the commercial break, you were sharing based on scientific approach, and interestingly, that domestic violence, and you spoke about not just physical abuse, but emotional, verbal abuse as well, and that all of these are primarily learned behaviors. And if so, where did we learn all of that? And why is it that the men have learned such behaviors and the women have learned other kind of behaviors? Maybe you have to help us to understand that as well, Dr. Coombs.
Right. So when I said the scientific approach, now public health is a science. And when we look at an issue such as domestic violence, one of the things that helps us to know exactly how to address it effectively is to look at what we call the risk factors and the protective factors. In other words, what puts somebody at a higher risk of becoming a perpetrator of domestic violence? What, on the other hand, is a protective factor, will protect them, let them, enable them to be less likely to be a perpetrator of domestic violence. So I want to answer that question by saying a little bit about the family. You know, I represent the National Association for the Family, and it's for a very good reason when it comes to these issues. So what has been found from research is that when you have a nuclear family with mother and father in a healthy relationship such as marriage, parenting the children effectively, that immediately that results in a protective factor for those children to turn out to be perpetrators of domestic violence. Doesn't mean that it never happened, but they're at a much lower risk when you compare them to children who grow up in homes, we say, with a single mother, you know, without a father figure. They are at an increased risk of expressing violent behavior. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody who grew up with a single mother is going to be violent. We have some good persons, some good citizens. It's just that when we say they're at a higher risk, they're more likely. So we have to look at that as a country if we are going to have an effective intervention for domestic violence and not just talk about it. Because if it shows that children who grow up in that structure are less likely, and not just by a little, much less likely, and research has borne this out. If I might just cite one very quickly, in the United States, for example, and so bearing in mind that domestic violence includes intimate partner violence, in the US Department of Justice, they get the reports of all the women, all the individuals who are, well, women in particular, this study was about, who experience intimate partner violence. They looked at them over 17 years, from 1993 to 2010. And when they sort of correlated that with family structure, guess what they found? They found that the ladies who experienced the greatest amount of intimate partner violence were single women with children living in the home. And the ones that had the lowest report of intimate partner violence are married women, and way down the bottom. So should we ignore that? Is that saying anything to us? The other quick thing before I pause is that they found that when a child, not the US Department of Justice, another research entity, when a child grows up with a single mother, they are 14 times more likely to experience abuse. And when that child grows up with a single mother, with a father who is not their biological father, they are 33 times more likely to experience abuse. What is that telling us? I'll pause right there.
Thank you, Dr. Coombs. I want to bring Nashon Miller in, policy analyst at the Bureau of Gender Affairs. I'm happy that Dr. Coombs spoke to the issue of intimate partner violence, because whenever we hear domestic violence, we tend to think of intimate partner violence. You brought in some other forms of domestic violence with children, with adults, elderly persons, as well as spousal abuse. How can we ensure that when we're speaking about domestic violence, we're not only talking about spousal abuse? And is this something in all categories that our men are the main perpetrators of this act of domestic violence? National, are you
Okay,
there?
thanks for that question. All right, so of course, we have to begin with sensitization, raising awareness around the issue of domestic violence, but to ensure that when we raise these issues, we're not just focusing on one aspect of domestic violence. Like, for example, whenever I'm invited to any forum, I ensure that I, talk about these other forms of abuse. It's very important, of course, to talk about spousal, intimate partner violence, abuse, because it is very rampant. However, I think we cannot ignore it, and we need to have more sessions where we're looking at these other aspects. The Protection and Family Planning Agency, they normally focus on children, child abuse and whatnot. I think tomorrow I'll be at a forum looking at bullying in schools, and we're talking about high school students, of course. And these are the things that we're supposed to address. What is happening in the homes? Where we're talking about, we only talk about elder abuse. Yes, we only talk about sibling abuse. We know a lot of times, even some of the violent crimes that we see are happening, they start at home. Sibling have that type of rivalry. Uncles have nephew, brothers and sisters, or brothers and brothers, sisters and sisters. We cannot ignore them entirely. So just to raise awareness around these things, and know that, yes, while it is that we should focus on intimate partner violence, we have to just pay some amount of attention to the other forms of domestic violence. The
Thank
second
you.
part of the question, can you repeat it for me, please?
The question is really, how can we help? As well, you just said raising awareness. I think you would have answered both questions in your discussion just a while ago. But I believe we often only refer to domestic violence as spousal abuse. Um, in the Bureau of Gender Affairs, what are your figures looking like? We just heard some figures from Dr. Michael Coombs. And I know when you go to your forums, you have your laptop with your research and what is happening there. Are we seeing an increase in spousal abuse? What's happening there? Is education helping, or are we remaining the same? Is it getting lower? What's happening there?
All right. So in terms of spousal abuse, normally we would get our data from the Jamaica Statistics and Information Management Unit. They normally provide all data for us to disaggregate it by sex for us to analyze. And when you're talking about domestic violence, I know most recently persons have been saying that there has been an increase in domestic violence cases because of COVID and men are staying home. And I haven't seen any research thus far to suggest that, so I cannot say that is the case, but I just know that persons have, I think it's more of an anticipation that because of COVID, more men are going to be home and men are the main perpetrators, that automatically we're going to have more cases of intimate partner violence. But as I said, I haven't seen the research to suggest this, so I can't speak to that. But I just know that we have programs now. We have a refocus perpetrator program in collaboration with the dispute resolution and Jamaica Minister of Justice, that is, and we look at persons instead of going domestic violence perpetrators, that is, instead of them going to jail, they could come to this program and they would learn, and if they are able to finish the program successfully, they wouldn't have to enter into the jail situation. So it's really to get them refocused. And when we say perpetrator, we're not automatically talking about men. You have female perpetrators also. So that program, as I said, it's running right now, and we've had several sessions, and that directly deal with issues of intimate partner violence. So that
Thank
is
you,
one that I
Nasha.
want to highlight
I
that is going good thus far.
Thank you, Nashan. What I asked
It's a
Dr.
privilege.
Coombs,
It's time for another station break. It's 6 o'clock. But indeed, thank you, Nashan. I was a part of that program 2 weeks ago down in Galena. But we're going to take a break. We're going to come right back as we go for break to studio. We've been talking with Nashan Miller and Dr. Michael Coombs on the issue of domestic violence. This is Domestic Violence Prevention Week. We're going right back after these messages.
Hello, Jamaica! Phosphorus is having a super lighting sale. Yes, that's right, with LED emergency bulbs from $500. Come get you chandeliers, wall lamps, ceiling fixtures, and so much more. From October 1 to 31, shop and enjoy great deals at Phosphorus in Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Or visit www.phosphorus.com/shop. What are you waiting for? Enjoy massive discounts only at Phosphorus. Open Sundays.
Are you starting to feel your partner doesn't appreciate you much? You're probably right. Sometimes it's hard to know if you're being taken for granted in your marriage, and sometimes it's glaringly obvious. The Truly Marvelous program wants to help you and yours. So tune in this Thursday, October 13 at 5:30 p.m. with host Colleen Beckles and co-host Pastor Napoleon Black as they look at I Feel Taken for Granted in My Marriage. That's the program designed to have and to hold marriages. This and every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. right here on the family station Love 101.
I've got love in my heart and I'm feeling blessed.
Are you ready for another exciting show inside Alive 1 to 5 with this Throwback Thursday, October 13? Well, join me, your host, Sarah Ann, the Chirpy One, for another time to recollect and reconnect. Stick around for Prayer Blast at 2 o'clock as we ring in the prayer bells of heaven. 2:15 inside Pieces of the Past. In our Rewind feature series, we take a look at the evolution of Jamaica since 1962. Then at 3 p.m., we bring you another episode of Proverbially Speaking, Sayings About Promises. All this and more will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. this Throwback Thursday, October 13 on the family station, Love 101.
Give him praise, give him
Celebrating 100 years of taste that moves you. The Time by Grace Foods is
2 minutes past the hour 6 in the evening here. You're listening to the program, The Mailbox on Love 101, the family station. Kev, you were about to ask a
Yes.
question to Dr. Coombs.
Yes, want to find out because we're focusing on the men. Dr. Coombs, would you agree that Jamaican men are too aggressive instead of being assertive? And if so, is this contributing to the different forms of abuse? And what are some of the solutions from where you sit? And I want Nation as well to tell us from his desk what has been done to solve this problem. Dr. Coombs.
Right, thank you. Well, before I respond to your very important question, Kevin, I just want to really commend the mailbox for 10 years of
Thank you.
ministry that you're doing. Very, very well done. And I just want to say yes to your short answer to your question about the role of men. Absolutely yes. And, for me personally and the NAF, we think it's important, and I want to commend the Bureau of Gender Affairs and Nation and others. It's very important to provide the spaces for dialogue and for men to talk about their issues. Very, very important. But we need to go a step further, wouldn't we agree, in having a transformational, intervention that we so badly need? Because we have been talking about this matter of domestic violence for many years, actually, and we keep having to come back to it. So we need to ask ourselves, what do we need to do differently? And in terms of the role of men, it's very clear that we must focus on our brothers, because we said earlier that they are by far the perpetrators of domestic violence and crime generally in our society. But also, based on what I said earlier, that if the family is what God is in a state as God intended it to be, and marriage and so on, then that will create a very significant protective factor in terms of the risk of those children who are reared in that home becoming perpetrators of domestic violence. Based on that very compelling evidence that I cited earlier, then men have a very important role in playing a part in a transformational way of our society, because men are still primarily the initiators of family formation. That is how God designed it. Therefore shall a man leave. That is said for a woman to leave, a man leave. So we're still the primary initiators of family formation. And one of the things that could be argued very effectively is that manhood and masculinity as God intended is nowhere near to what it ought to be in our society. And so we have a lot of men, we have good men out there, and we want to salute our good brothers, good fathers, but still too many of our brothers, they go about fathering children outside of wedlock. And Jamaica has one of, if not the highest out of wedlock birth rate in the world. Is this coincidental that we also struggle with one of the highest murder rates for our country outside of war? Or why we're having so much problem with domestic violence? The research seems to strongly suggest that there is a link. So you're right, Kevin. We have to look at our men. Many of them have these emotional issues because they were not privy to have a godly father relating to a godly marriage, wife rather, in marriage, and taught by not just what they're told, but what was modeled in front of them, how to relate to women, for example, in a respect and loving way. They did not have that opportunity. So we have to break that cycle. That's why we have interventions like Man of Jamaica.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Coombs. And what can we do differently? Nation, some things being thrown out there. Over 88% of our children are born out of wedlock. Is there a correlation between father wound, fatherlessness, and violence, abuse, etc.? And would we be looking at that as a protective factor? The research Dr. Coombs sharing. So Nashan, what is it? Is it troubling for you with men and their aggression and perpetrators? And what is it from your desk that you're doing specifically to address this issue?
Okay. So one of the things that we're doing from the desk is to. All right. I just want to talk about our mentorship program. So currently we have a male mentorship program, and I invite um, all of you gentlemen to be a part of it. But we're trying to paint more positive images of men so that we're able to have what we will call a self-fulfilling prophecy. In Jamaica, we tend to have this thing where we're, talking so negatively about our men in everything that they do. So we want to have more positive images of our men in society so that a young man would know that, hey, this is the benchmark. A Jamaican man is a man who's responsible, a man who's accountable, a man who's loving, caring, takes care of his family, etc. Right? Not the man that beats woman, neglect their children, a man who's not accountable. As a matter of fact, Courtney would know that uh, our amazing dads, series that we had born out of that to a larger extent, where we're saying that there's too many negative depictions of men in our society, and we want to have more positive images. So we need to start focusing on what's the benchmark and not the minimum, where we have these type of expectation of men doing all that is wrong within society, as opposed to ensure that young men understand that the positive role models, the positive images that they see is what we expect. That's the expectation. That's supposed to be the standard, right? So from the male decks, I normally go out and I talk to young men in communities, in schools, talking about even the whole aspect of toxic versus healthy masculinity, and we talk about some of the things that may cause persons to be perpetrators of violence and domestic violence in respect is that we're not communicating our feelings, whether it is feelings of anger, feelings of pain, we're not communicating it effectively. As a matter of fact, when we talk about communicating feelings, we think that which is tough and boisterous and agitated are feelings that we're supposed to subscribe to, not that which is loving and caring, right? We don't even talk to each other. You don't tell your male colleague, your male friend, that you love him to a certain extent, because that will be frowned upon in different aspect of society. But we don't talk about these things. We don't talk to our mom, our dad. We don't share these type of compassion and this effective type of communication, but a communication that have a message of love, right, and care and understanding. We don't do that. So we just want to get to a point where we see these things as the norm and not as something that, okay, you did well. These supposed to be the norm. Effective communication, communication with love and care, and also we're talking about being the standard. And come next month, International Men's Day, we'll have a
November
surprise
19th.
in terms of what is it that we're doing regarding our young men and men in general, and men just playing their role in society. So the male dex is continuing to do the work of just promoting positive male behavior.
Thank you, Nashon. Thank you very much. I enjoy the work that the Bureau is doing, and especially you in at the mail desk. I want to pose this question to Dr. Michael Coombs. I know he's a scientific man. Do you believe, sir, and it's just piggybacking on what Nashon just said, self-fulfilling prophecies, yes? That the more we tend to highlight and stereotype and stigmatize, such as men don't really speak, and if they cry, they are less than men, and if they're talking too much, they're like talking as much as women. Could some of these stereotypes be what is affecting our men's, and I'm going to use the term that Kevin came up with that I think is so fantastic, that's affecting his emotions, that he eventually, with everything pent up, it becomes anger and aggression? And if your answer is yes to that, how can we fix it?
Right. My answer is yes to that. Definitely. And it's not a simple issue though. It's complex in a way. and there are a number of factors that contribute to men demonstrating the behavior that we see. One of them, in addition to what you said about how they're taught not to behave or communicate, is the fact that there's a move, and not just in our country, internationally, to subdue manhood and masculinity as God intended. And men, they feel it. And so some of them react in this way, not to justify it. I want to also really reinforce the point that Nashan made about mentorship and the need for us to use good men to really be role models. We have them, they're there. And so rather than talking a lot about this suboptimum, those who are not up to stand, let us hold up their good role models and let them be more visible and seen and have an impact on younger men. But to back to what Courtney was asking though, one of the things we need to understand, and we need to get these messages across to our males, especially those who are yet to become fathers and have families of their own. We must educate these young men in a creative way, an interesting and engaging way, where they understand that for a man, for example, the best environment for a male to learn that it is okay to hug even another male, their father, and to learn how a man treats a woman in a loving way, a respectful way. The best environment is for that to be modeled in the home between mother and father, and even between father and children. Research has shown, for example, if a father regularly hugs his child, especially his sons, that they turn out to be much less violent than others who have never been hugged. I want us to think about that. So this whole issue of transformation, how we address the issue, it begins in the home to a very large extent. It's important for us to take older men and try and educate them and change their behavior and so on. That's very important. We have to go at every aspect of their life course. But a key intervention is in the home when children are in the early years, the formative years. And for us to really reach that environment and have a turnaround there, we have to intercept the young men who are yet to become fathers and become persons with their own families.
Thank you very much, Dr. Coombs. We have another commercial break and we're going to throw back to the studio. When we come back, it's our final segment here on the mailbox. It's Domestic Violence Prevention Week, Awareness Month. Man, so many things are happening in this month alone. We're talking to Nashan Miller and Dr. Michael Coombs. We'll come right back after these messages.
When you hear the trumpet or the flute, know it's a battle. Time to put your feet.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And this Friday, October 14 at 8:30 a.m., Love 101 FM will be live on location at the Jamaica Cancer Society, 16 Lady Musgrave Road, Kingston. Plus, in celebration of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the Jamaica Cancer Society will be giving away 100 mammograms, compliments of the National Health Fund. To be eligible, please contact the Jamaica Cancer Society at 876-927-3317 or 876-927-4573 to make your appointment no longer than 2 p.m. Thursday, October 13. Remember, you are only eligible when you contact the Jamaica Cancer Society at 876-927-3317 or 876-927-4573. Ladies, make the call today. That's the Jamaica Cancer Society Breast Cancer Awareness Month broadcast this Friday, October 14 at 8:30 a.m. Catch it live right here on the family station, Love 101.
I know you heard this message before.
Crime Stop Jamaica 311 Unsolved. We need your help to solve the murder of 73-year-old Patrick Lawrence, a businessman and motel operator of 12 Top Road, St. Anne's Bay. A customer tried to rent a room at 10 p.m. on Saturday, 14th of May 2022, but couldn't find Mr. Lawrence. The police were summoned on Sunday morning, and Mr. Lawrence's body was discovered close to a staircase with wounds to his head. Crime Stop and Concerned citizens are offering a total reward of $750,000 for information leading to an arrest and charge. Call Crime Stop Jamaica 311. Solving crime pays.
Welcome back to our final segment here on the mailbox. It's Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. We have Dr. Michael Coombs, public health specialist and founder, chair, National Association for the Family, and Nashon Miller, policy analyst in the Policy and Research Department at the Bureau of Gender Affairs. It's Domestic Violence Prevention Awareness Week, and that's what we're speaking about, domestic violence. Nashon informed us that there are other areas. Most often, when we refer to domestic violence, we're speaking to spousal abuse, more called intimate partner violence. There's the elderly that we abuse in domestic affairs and the child who we abuse. But we're focusing on the issue of spousal abuse. Dr. Coombs would have highlighted it is the family, that is the foundation. And if it's modeled and we get it correctly there, then we shall have a good, great, godly society. Kev.
Yes. So, Courtney, what do persons do if they're experiencing domestic violence? Nashan, are there safe places? Is there a reporting structure? So, whether it is mother, whether it's elderly, whether it's the children, men, women, but from where you sit, what are they supposed to do if they really want to escape this kind of abuse, Nashan?
All right. So right now, as it is, the Bureau of Gender Affairs and Ministry, it's a Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport. We have three national shelter. We have shelter unit, domestic violence shelters for women. Unfortunately, just for women at this time, because what you see is that statistics data shows that women are the main victims of intimate partner violence. So we have two functional, two operational shelters where women and children can go just for a period of time until they're able to get back on their feet, so to speak, just to escape that situation. It can lead to not just physical abuse, but even to death. Yes, murder, suicide, things of
Definitely.
that nature.
How,
So you
how do
want
they access that, Nashan? How do they actually access the service?
Well, they call the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Yes, as I said,
Okay.
we have a shelter unit that is solely responsible for all of these matters. And persons, it's a 24 hours helpline. We have a helpline number. If I may, it's
Sure.
553, well, 876-553-0372. Yes. So persons can call the Bureau of Gender Affairs or call that number at any time, and they should be able to get in touch with um, someone who will able to assist them into getting to one of our shelters. All right, so we have that for persons, as I said. But one of our main thing is in terms of prevention. We have a national strategic action plan to eliminate gender-based violence, and domestic violence and intimate partner violence falls under our big umbrella of gender-based violence. So we have that strategic action plan to eliminate these type of situation, and it runs from 2017 to 2027, and we have 5 strategic priority areas, and the first area is prevention and the second one is protection. So this is where the shelter unit would have been born out of, things like the refocus perpetrator program and other programs, as I stated before, just looking to eliminate gender-based violence. So we are there. We have programs and initiatives to help to assist victims. And I want to do more in terms of men, because a lot of men ask me, is there a unit or something for men who are being abused? Not at this time, but these are some of the things that we often say, men need to speak up regarding these matters, because when you're making policies and programs, you all normally look at data to see which area need assistance more. So when you have reports of 95% of females being victims, then we would focus naturally on females. When you have, so the more men talk about these things, and know we are in a society where men are very, very they're not forthcoming regarding these information. I think the JCF Statistics and Information Management Unit, from the last data that I saw, is state that 14% of men are victims of domestic violence in Jamaica. but those are reported cases. 14 is still low, but those are just reported cases. And Dr. Coombs spoke about different aspect of violence, domestic violence, and normally we talk about physical violence, but what about psychological, emotional, or even financial violence, abuse, that is. Yes, we're not talking about psychological, emotional, or financial abuse because oftentimes these are not seen. You can see a cut, you can see a scar, and you can see that something is going on. But a lot of men are also suffering in silence because they are abused in so many other ways. So, again, to your point, we have programs in place and we will continue to do our work in communities, in schools, in private sector, public sector, ministries, departments, and the agencies, looking at these things that we can correct through our national strategic action plan to eliminate gender-based violence.
Thank you, Nashon. You may also want to mention that victims unit have been set up with the constabulary forces, and training have been done to help to remedy those situations. Anything further on that? I knew there are 8 stations that does that. You want to speak on
Well,
that?
it's a collaborative effort. As you know,
Right.
the Bureau of Gender Affairs, we can only reach so far as matter. So we have to work with the JCF, we have to work with Victim Support Division, we have to work with Ministry of Justice, dispute resolution. As I say, the key word there is dispute, and a lot of these things is about dispute not being settled correctly. Some misunderstanding, and it lead there, men communicating their feeling through probably physical violence and so on. So we have to collaborate. We have to collaborate with other ministries, department, agencies, and also international partners. We cannot leave them out, of course. And just overall, as I said, it would need everybody to be on deck, to get rid of this monster of intimate partner violence. It is one of the reasons why I know Jamaica, we have gang violence, we have so many things that is going on right now, but intimate partner violence, domestic violence in general, is causing a lot of. I know we haven't heard any big story, but one of the things going back to the incident in Clarendon with the young man and that murdered is sibling that will fall under the umbrella of domestic violence. Yes, so he murdered those persons and as I said, we tend to overlook these things because it's not intimate partner, but again, it's domestic related. So we have to speak more about that, how to resolve issues within the home.
Thank you, Nashan. So many things. We're almost out of time. Dr. Michael Coombs. Yes, your final words as to what is it that you want to see happening differently. We're doing some good things, and certainly we're very happy to know that the special desk for the men, Nashan, thank you for sharing all of that as well. But Dr. Coombs, what else would you like to see, and probably focus areas? You spoke about transformational stuff.
Change.
Share a little bit more about that, Dr. Coombs.
All right. Thank you again, Kevin. And just to add to what people could do, persons can also go to the accident and emergency departments of hospitals if they're being abused, especially physical abuse. So the health facilities must also be factored in. They're all over the place, as you know. In terms of the way forward, I alluded to it earlier. As I said, violent behavior is primarily a learned thing. And where is the most important environment where we learn our behavior, where we learn justice and righteousness, how to treat, how to have healthy interpersonal relationships? It's the home. And the evidence could not be clearer. When that home is headed by a father and a mother in a lifelong healthy marriage, that does the best in reducing the risk of those children who are being nurtured becoming adults who have that violent behavior disposition. If we are going to have transformational change, we cannot ignore that root cause. It's very good what we're doing as a therapeutic way and trying to find, safe space. That's very important, and we must continue that. But if you're going to have true transformational change in society, we must promote the institution of marriage. I can tell you, Kevin and Courtney, I don't know if Nashan wants to disagree, but I have been privy to a lot of national action plans that seek to address these issues. And I'm yet to find one as a preventive or a solution that promotes marriage, that says specifically one of the things we're going to do because of what the research shows. We're going to encourage young men, especially who are the initiators of family formation, to get married as God designed it to be. And so that's, we have to start with the men, and that is important. We're going to have to nurture a generation of men under God and reconnect them to God through Christ. That's where we start. And then hopefully they will become different fathers and husbands.
You're muted, Courtney. Sorry, Courtney, you're muted.
Thank you, Dr. Coombs. Thank you. So many other questions we could ask. Is the church doing enough? How did we as men get to this point? Are questions, but indeed, foundational causes help in transformational reform. We want to say thanks, or we're saying thanks, clearly, to Tony K. Bromfield, our producer. Great work, Tony. Technical engineer, Timoy Butler, who is the real deal for technical support. Our guest, Dr. Michael Coombs, health specialist, founder, chair, National Association for the Family and National Policy Analyst in the Policy and Research Department at the Bureau of Gender Affairs. I thank listeners, viewers, participants for just tuning in. Indeed, you may get each episode on your YouTube channel. Previous episodes are also available on viewing and notes taking at Love 101 FM. Okay.
So this is the program designed for men with guests who are men. I'm your co-host, Kevin Bailey, and Courtney Morrison is right here. Catch you next week, same place, same time. Thank you so much, Nashon. Thank you so much, Dr. Coombs. All the very best.
Welcome. Thank you too. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to other robust engagements such as this one.
Bless you. This was the Mailbox, and it was sponsored by Fosrich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people, and brought to you by Love 101 FM, the family station. Next week, Monday.
Monday.
How when he got man them there, the man